I stole my sister's fiancé, and now karma has dealt me a hand that almost seems too cruel. I will let you be the judge. I used to be the girl who lived in her older sister's shadow. Her name is Nicole. Nicole with the gleaming white smile, the flawless skin, the magnetic laugh. She's an elementary school teacher, the kind of woman kids draw crayon portraits of and write, best teacher ever under. Me? I'm April. I was a bartender, part-time photographer, and full-time mistake maker. Always chasing attention, always living off the thrill of the next impulse. I never hated Nicole. But I hated how easy everything came to her. And I hated the way people looked at me when she was in the room. Like I was her lesser. And then I met him. His name was Daniel. He was tall, confident, and charismatic. He had that smirk, the kind that made you feel like he knew all your secrets and liked you anyway. He worked in corporate finance and wore custom suits with arrogance. When Nicole brought him to Thanksgiving 3 years ago, he shook hands with Dad and charmed Mom in minutes. I remember watching her lean into him, his hand on her knee under the table. I felt it then, like a burn in my chest, envy so sharp it tasted like blood. They got engaged a year later. Nicole asked me to be her maid of honor. I smiled and said yes. Then I went home and cried until my eyes swelled shut. Jealousy is such an ugly beast. At first, Daniel and I was just cordial towards each other. I wouldn't say we were friends but friendly. We'd strike up conversations at family dinners casually. We had the same taste in music and movies, so the conversation was always comfortable. Soon, we grew a little closer, and before you know it, we were confiding in each other and venting about our problems. This familiarity bred what ultimately happened next. The first time it happened, we were drunk. That's not an excuse. It's a pathetic explanation. Daniel had called me, late, after a fight with Nicole. I was working a slow night at the bar, cleaning glasses when my phone buzzed. She treats me like a kid she has to fix, he slurred. You get me, April. You always have. I should have hung up. Instead, I said, come over. He showed up 20 minutes later, smelling like whiskey and heartbreak. We talked. He cried. I poured drinks. Then his lips were on mine, and everything blurred, clothes on the floor, breathless moans, whispered names. I remember lying beside him afterward, my heart pounding. It felt dangerous and exhilarating. I told myself it would be a one-time thing. It wasn't. That night, after everything happened, I wanted to pull away. I told myself it was a mistake, that I would never let it happen again. But deep down, I knew I was lying. The thrill of it, the secrecy, the way Daniel looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Finally, I was being seen. Finally, I was chosen over Nicole. It all felt like something I had craved for years. I had finally broken through the wall of perfection that Nicole seemed to live behind. It felt powerful. I felt powerful. The guilt started to creep in soon after, but it wasn't enough to stop me. Every time I saw Daniel, there was this undeniable pull. His eyes, the way they would linger on me for just a second too long. His touch, like he was trying to prove something. I couldn't ignore it. It became a game, the most dangerous, deceitful game of my life. We met in hotel rooms, in the backseat of his BMW, once even in the house he shared with Nicole when she was away at a conference. I remember standing in her kitchen, barefoot, drinking coffee from one of her favorite mugs while Daniel kissed my neck. You're wild, he'd whisper, pressing against me. She doesn't do this. You're what I need. I believed him. Or I wanted to. He gave me gifts, a bracelet with my initials, expensive lingerie, a camera lens I'd once said I wanted. We had this secret world, one built on lust and betrayal, and I started believing I deserved it. I started dressing differently. I posted cryptic quotes online. I lived for the lies. The rush of almost getting caught. The fantasy that one day, he'd choose me openly. But the longer we kept this up, the more unstable things became. We started getting careless. Daniel would leave his phone unlocked while he showered, and I couldn't help but peek at his messages. Sometimes, I'd find little clues, messages from her, their plans for the weekend. It made me sick, but I couldn't stop. I'd send him texts, pretending everything was fine, pretending I wasn't slowly losing my mind. One night, as I sat in the corner of the bar with a drink in my hand, watching Nicole talk animatedly with some of the guests, I thought, this is it. She's living my life. He's living my life. The jealousy, the anger, the betrayal, it felt suffocating. But I never told her. I couldn't. The thought of losing Daniel made my stomach twist, but losing the attention, losing the thrill, was even worse. So what did I do? I pushed harder. I wanted to show him I was the better choice. He needed me and only me. I pulled out all the stops during intimacy. No protection. Positions I knew my prissy sister would never dare to do. The most reckless parts of me took over. I told him I wanted him completely, no barriers, no secrets. I remember one night, wrapped in his arms, whispering, "Let's just be real. Let's stop pretending. Leave her," he said. "Soon. After the holidays. I promise." Turns out I didn't have to wait too much longer. A couple of weeks after this encounter, Nicole found texts. Steamy text messages from him to me and vice versa. She confronted him immediately. They had a huge fight. Screaming and breaking things until one of their neighbors called the cops. Honestly, I didn't know my sister had that kind of fight in her. Next, she reached out to me. She screamed at me on the phone, her voice breaking. "You were my sister. I trusted you." I replied, "You never really saw him. He was never yours." I felt hated. I was hated. I wasn't even sorry. But Daniel stayed with me. For a while. The thing about infidelity is that, at first, it feels like a victory. Like you've won. But then the weight of it starts to sink in. The guilt, the lies, the constant fear of being caught, it all becomes too much. And when I looked at Daniel, I didn't see the man I thought I wanted. I saw the man I had destroyed myself for. My whole family cut me off. They said I was an embarrassment. Even friends that I had known for years looked at me differently after learning what happened. Slowly but surely doubt started to creep in. Daniel and I moved in together in a sleek apartment downtown. I decorated the place like I thought a couple who made it would. But things were off. He was distant. Gone a lot. Always on his phone. I would ask him, "Where are you going?" "Who was that?" He'd shrug. "Work. Just a friend." Intimacy slowed down. The gifts stopped. I started to wonder if I had won anything at all. His affection had shifted, and I couldn't make sense of it. I thought he would stay with me forever, like he said he would. But now, when I saw him, I didn't recognize him. The man I'd stolen from Nicole had faded into someone else. He didn't seem to care about me anymore. I began noticing his strange behavior. He'd leave for long hours, sometimes overnight. His excuses were always thin. And he became more distant in other ways. We hadn't had sex in weeks, and when we did, it felt mechanical, nothing like it had been before. He would sometimes pull away in the middle of it, his mind somewhere else. I would ask him what was wrong, but he'd just tell me, nothing. I started to feel like I was losing him, and losing myself. I used to crave his attention, but now it felt like I was begging for scraps. I wasn't sure if I wanted to hold on to this anymore. But I didn't know how to let go. Then, about 6 months after Nicole walked away, I got a call from her. "April?" Her voice trembled. I got a message on Instagram. A woman. She said she was with Daniel. That he gave her HIV. My blood went cold. She said he knew. That he found out months ago. And didn't tell anyone. I got tested. I'm negative. But. April. You need to get tested. Now. I dropped the phone. Literally. My knees buckled. I sat on the bathroom floor shaking. I couldn't breathe. My head was spinning. HIV? There's no way. I feel fine. I'm not sick. And Daniel had known? He had known for months and hadn't told anyone. He didn't tell me. He didn't tell Nicole. He didn't care about any of us. He had risked our futures, and now, it may be too late to fix it. I stumbled out of my bedroom in search of my keys. I needed to know right now if I was okay. I drove to the clinic with hands that wouldn't stop shaking and breaking many traffic laws. The nurse who took care of me was kind. She asked if I had a support system. I said no. At that moment I never felt more alone. The test was quick. They told me it would be a couple of days before the results came back. The next few days passed in a blur. My sister continued to call but I ignored her. I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I just stayed in bed and stared at the walls. I tried to get in contact with Daniel. He was out of town on business and wasn't picking up the phone. I left dozens of messages about needing to talk to him but never got a response. After 3 days I got a call from the clinic telling me my results were in. I will cut straight to the chase. It was positive. The results were positive for the virus. I don't remember much after that. A nurse reached for my hand whispering, "I'm so sorry." She handed Kleenex. I must have started crying. Someone mentioned getting in touch with the local health department and making an appointment with primary physician. I was also given many forms and pamphlets. I must have left the building eventually because I remember vomiting behind a dumpster in the parking lot and crying so hard my ribs hurt. This disease, this thing I couldn't take back, had been given to me by someone who didn't care. Someone who hadn't cared about me at all. Someone who I think I loved. When I arrived home, Daniel was in the living room. A lazy grin on his face, lounging on the couch without a care in the world. "Hey babe," he said while munching on a bag of chips. I instantly flew into a rage. I stomped over to the couch and lifted him up by his collar. "Did you know?" I screamed. "Did you know you had this?" He snatched away from me looking annoyed and confused. "What are you talking about, April?" "HIV. Did you know? My sister called me and said you have known for months." I was yelling so loud my voice scratched. A litany of emotion flashed across his face. He went from confusion, to shock to shame. He closed his eyes for a beat and when he opened them I was now looking at a broken stranger. "Yes. I found out 2 weeks before Nicole left. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you, too." "You didn't want to lose me? You infected me. You let me live a lie." He cried but said nothing else. I didn't care. I left. I didn't take anything with me, I didn't care about any of it. I just knew I needed to get away from him. Before the dark thoughts of violence took over me, I ended up at an extended stay hotel. Daniel was arrested days later after my tip-off to the health department about his known locations. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. 3 other women pressed charges. Statutory disclosure violations and criminal transmission. The media had gotten a hold of his story and I read articles online. My name was never mentioned. My face never shown. But I saw comments. The shame was unbearable. Nicole came over after his arrest. I hadn't seen her in nearly a year. She looked thinner. Sadder. But still kind. She brought soup. I hadn't eaten in days. We sat in silence at first. "I'm sorry, April," she said. "I mean, for everything. But I never wanted this for you." I broke down. "I thought I wanted your life. But I destroyed mine instead." She held my hand. That was the moment something shifted between us. I looked into her eyes. I didn't see pity, just fear and love for me. After Daniel's arrest, I was left to pick up the pieces. The shame was suffocating. I lost even more friends. I lost respect. My family was still distant, and though they didn't say it, I knew they blamed me, too. I wanted to disappear. But I couldn't. Not just yet. Nicole didn't leave. She stayed by my side. She helped me through the worst of it. The hospital visits, the therapy, the grief. One day, while we sat together on the couch, she said, "I know what you did. I know how wrong it was. But you're my sister. And I love you. That's not going to change. I cried. I don't know if I'd ever heard something more healing. I think about the choices I made every single day. I used to fantasize about destroying Nicole's fairy tale. I didn't realize the shrapnel would hit me, too. I didn't realize the story I was writing for myself had no happy ending. I'm on meds now. My health is stable. But my heart isn't. Nicole visits sometimes. We're rebuilding. Slowly. Once, she brought over old photo albums. Remember this? She laughed, pointing at us in matching Halloween costumes. We laughed. We cried. She asked me once, "Do you still love him?" I shook my head and said, "No. I don't even love who I was when I wanted him." Hopeful update. It's been over a year since everything came crashing down, and in that time, I've learned what it truly means to rebuild. It hasn't been easy, but I'm starting to feel like myself again. Like I'm actually living, not just surviving. First, I should say, Nicole and I have come a long way. It wasn't immediate. There were a lot of awkward, painful conversations. Some days, I felt like I didn't deserve her forgiveness. But we're sisters. And slowly, we've been mending what I broke. It wasn't about forgetting or pretending it didn't happen. It was about accepting the damage and working through it together. I've been going to therapy regularly, and I'm starting to make real progress. The shame, the guilt, they haven't completely gone away. But I've learned to sit with them, not run from them. There's a strange kind of peace in that. I've also been focusing on my career. I started working with a nonprofit that focuses on women's health and mental well-being. It's been incredibly rewarding to feel like I'm doing something meaningful, something that can help others who might be going through what I did. I think, in a way, it's my attempt to make up for the selfishness I indulged in for so long. I've also met someone. His name is Ethan. We met at a support group for people living with HIV. He's kind, patient, and understanding, and he never once judged me for my past. It's still new, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hope. Real hope, not just the empty kind I used to cling to when I was trying to avoid my mistakes. I don't know where this will lead. But for the first time in years, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Update on Daniel's charges. Daniel's trial has been a long, drawn-out process, but it's finally coming to an end. He's been facing multiple charges, including felony criminal transmission of HIV, a violation of statutory disclosure laws, and endangering public health. The prosecution has built a strong case, largely due to the testimonies of multiple women who, like me, were unknowingly exposed to the virus while he continued to engage in unprotected sex. The trial was difficult. For all of us. I think part of me wanted to see him suffer the consequences of his actions, but there was no satisfaction in it. The man I thought I loved had destroyed everything he touched, and watching him break down in court, unable to deny the pain he caused, didn't feel like a victory. It felt like the final nail in the coffin of everything he and I had built together. In the end, Daniel pled guilty to the charges. His sentencing is coming up from what I understand. He's facing a significant amount of prison time. The judge will take into account the damage he's caused, not just to me, but to the others involved, and he won't walk free for a long time. It's strange to think about, but even though I know he deserves to face the consequences, I don't find any joy in it. It's just another layer of pain that will never go away. For me, the real healing is happening elsewhere. I'm learning to put Daniel in the past, where he belongs, and slowly build a future where I'm no longer defined by his mistakes. The court's decision won't change my reality, but it feels like one more step in the process of moving forward. And moving forward, finally, is all I want.